Welcome to the studio, lapidary equipment, how to get started on the cheap. So my name's Tess, I'm a teacher. I do jewelry as well as pottery. And I started lapping stones, cabbing stones 10 years ago. I started doing jewelry and I found out that buying cabochons are pre-made cabs ready to be set into jewelry. I found that these were pretty expensive. And so I went direct and bought some turquoise from a couple of mines, and boom, I needed to start cabbing. So how I started on a flat lap. The flat lap I purchased off eBay for about $100. It was used, it was probably from the 70s. The wonderful thing about flat lapping, the grinders in here, I'm going to try to find a grinder for you. Let's see what we can find in here. See if we can see any of my grinding wheels. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. This is a really small one. That's a really bad example. But the grinding wheels have a diamond surface, and they're quite large. I think I gave all of mine to my brother, who has my flat lap. Yeah, okay. But that's, in essence, that's what these are. They have a diamond surface right here, and you can grind the stone directly onto the surface. Grinding wheels can cost $10, sometimes cheaper, $8. And so that's a really inexpensive way of breaking into lapping and starting to cab your own stuff, is just to get a flat lap and to use grinding wheels. That is the cheapest way. The problem there, if you're grinding quite a bit of turquoise or quite a bit of stone, whatever it is that you want to cut and grind and lap and cab, it gets tedious because you have to continually remove the grinding wheel. So you can't, you've got 100 grit, you've got to remove it and then add your 220 grit. Then you remove that, then you add your 600 grit. So hence the reason for a 6-wheel booger. So this was my next purchase. As soon as I started cabbing enough to afford this, I bought this guy. I found him local. It was for sale by a guy who actually laps himself, and he had several pieces of equipment, some of which he was no longer using. So this one I paid $600 for, and I had all 6 wheels that were included. Now, in regards to buying this new, I would have probably paid $1,200, $1,500 to buy this unit new. So going used is definitely a good way of going when it comes to lapping. This unit here, I purchased for $250 on eBay. This unit though was a rust bucket. And so you can see that there is a saw here. This is a trim saw. And actually there's quite a bit more of the saw blade that shows if I push down the top. And then here are 3 grinding wheels. And so the only problem with this unit here that I would run into if I didn't have this unit here, this only has room for 3 wheels. And technically it actually started life with 2. And I just added the 3rd one. So I paid $250 for him, did a lot of elbow grease, a lot of work to him, ground out all the rust, spray painted him, and treated him for rust. These machines spend 90% of their life submerged in water or water in them, and so there's bound to be a little bit of rust in these machines. This is a great unit. I use it mainly though just for its saw. I don't usually use the grinders on this unit just because this unit actually has room for more grinders. So the ones that I have found are most useful for me for the grinders in regards to grit. So a good 60 grit, diamond hard metal, 220 grit. This is about a 400 grit. This one's about 600. And this is about 1200 to 2000 grit. So it's a 1200 really worn. So basically 2000. So realistically 4 is the magic number for me. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. I can't count this morning is a magic number for me in regards to usability And so some of these wheels can get really pricey. So here's the thing. If you want to break out into this and start out in a cheap way and not have to spend a ton of money, try to find a piece of good used equipment. And one thing to really keep an eye on is, does the equipment still have the wheels? So the wheels are the most expensive thing. And the wheel type matters a lot. So this is, I have no idea what material this is, but this wheel is what came on this $250 booger right here. It's like a carbide wheel. I don't know. It's like a stone wheel. The problem is with this, see the grooves and see how it's munched in like this. So that limits me in regards to where I can use this wheel. It also, for turquoise, especially because it's super soft, brittle sometimes, these edges here would cause issues if I was not really working carefully. So I declined to use these wheels. I was kind of bummed when I bought this machine and it had two of these things, so I had to replace the wheels that were in it. The wheels that I have found work the best and produce the best are hard wheels, and so I'm going to take you over here. I actually ordered some new wheels for the unit I built. This is a Kingsley North extra texture 8-inch booger, and I think I paid, I don't know, 120 for this. So it's got the plastic inset and the metal outside. This piece should last me several years, actually. And so those are the wheels that I found the best, the ones that are actually created for lapping, that are not the carbide material. The other wheels that I've found that have worked really well are these wheels here. Nova makes these. Nova can be a pretty expensive brand. Here's the trick though with Nova and any other wheel that you can get. If you find that someone's giving these away because they're all, the grit is all worn out, especially if they have this spongy material here, add a belt to it. Throw a belt over it. Some of these actually, the belts will slip and slide just ever so slightly. But others of these, the belt, once this machine starts running, the belt will actually adhere to this and I can use this and I can change out the belt. These belts you can get on Amazon or eBay for, I don't know, 25 bucks. You can get a couple of 8 of them. So they end up being $3 or $4 a piece. Again, they come in 60 grit all the way up to 1,000 grit, 1,200 grit, I believe. Sometimes it's hard to find with the higher grits, but those are a super cheap way of giving yourself some wheels. Here's the other thing too. So for wheels, instead of just relying on the metal boogers, an inexpensive way to go. So a good hard grinder, a metal booger, like at a 60 or 80 grit, I would definitely suggest that. The belts that are 60 grit wear really easily. So since the belts are cheap, 60 grit doesn't last long. It winds up being like a 200 grit within a day or two. You will definitely be happier finding a good and investing in a good diamond grit, high material remover, right? So then that way you're not wearing out your belts constantly. In regards to the higher grits, so anything from 200 up, I would definitely not hesitate to use a belt for now, especially if you're cheap like me. The belts actually wear a lot less, and then you kind of understand the belt's anatomy after a little while when you're using it. It takes a week to wear out 200 grit to a 400 grit. And so then you start to realize, okay, I can continue to use that belt, but I have to understand how much material actually it's taking off or how much it's not taking off. So these wheels, this is the last machine that I want to talk about. This is a machine that I built. It is scrap sheet metal that I got out of a scrapyard. I paid about 30 bucks for the sheet metal, $20 for the sheet metal. Spray painted it, bent, made the pan for it. On this side, I also made it in a way that I want it. On this side, this is an 8-inch wheel. On this side, those are all 6-inch wheels. It is ultimately cheaper to supply yourself with 6-inch wheels than it is 8. 8-inch wheels are always going to cost more. 6-inch wheels are always going to be cheaper. It is driven by a free motor that I found off of eBay or Craigslist. I can't remember which. It's a half horsepower or 3/4 horsepower. I think it's a half. It's a half horsepower. So just a generic motor. I found the pulley online. This pulley is then brought to a shaft. I only paid about $28 for the shaft. So there's several different ways of building your machine. You can buy a shaft with screw-on ends that's threaded, so you can get a nut around it. So you see this shaft here, it's got a threaded area, and then this mounts in. So these wheels are on the shaft, and then in between is a dowel spacer, an arm basically that just spaces these. So once you clamp this on, you tighten it down, you're actually tightening all of these down to a key lock that goes around the shaft here. Same thing on the other side. This is covering, this guy just screws in and out, so the end tip of the shaft has been threaded so that you can put a buffing pad here on the end. All you need to do is just unscrew this, and then you will see the same thing on that side as you do on this one with the threaded ends. So this machine I built, I paid about $30, $20-ish for the sheet metal. Each wheel is from Eastwood. Eastwood is, they make welding equipment, all sorts of different equipment, but they have these 6-inch by 1.5-inch flex belts. So these are beautiful because flex wheels. So you can put a belt on them. They look like this. They have these little penetrated slots here on the belt. Let's see if we can't get a better shot right there. So when this turns on, it opens up and the belt doesn't slide. This machine overall, because the engine was free and the sheet metal I built, I think I am in this machine for the cost of the wheels. This wheel here I paid $80 for. These wheels here I paid $46 a piece for these. They are the best wheels I could find, and also the most affordable. The 8-inch wheel I found on Amazon. Definitely disappointed with that wheel because it's not true. So when I started running it, started having a slight wobble to it, and it still has a slight wobble to it, which is a bummer. So I'm hoping to install the Kings whatever ones that I just got in the mail, and get rid of that one. So that is the differences between the different machines, and cost-wise. He was $250, he was $600. I'm into him at about $100, $200, $300, and then I have a few new wheels, so by the time I'm done, I'll be in him $600 as well. The biggest cost, the biggest expense out of all these machines, two different things that you're going to run into. The wheels. That's the biggest cost out of everything in these machines. The shaft. So the shaft for this one is not threaded. It is keyed, but that's it. So it wound up being cheap. Any kind of a shaft, though, that you want tapped or threaded on the end, anything like that, that racks up the price significantly. So just kind of keep that going in. Keep that in mind if you can when you're going into this. And good luck, finding a piece of equipment. I will put some more videos down. I'm going to add the wheels to this one, so I'll make a whole nother video as to how this unit goes together and how I built this unit. So good luck, and yeah, just ask any questions. I've been doing this for about 10 years, doing jewelry and lapping stones. I started selling stones 6 years ago, 5 years ago, started kind of, helping other jewelers out. So yeah, it's been a passion. It's been a hobby. One of the many things that I don't need more hobbies, but I love it. I love cabbing. I love cutting stones. So